Good morning? No, good afternoon. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is, but it doesn't matter. Digital multimedia. It's Friday. I was here during the morning, but I'm not here right now during the afternoon. And I wanted to shoot this demo video for you guys so that you were kept up to speed with everybody else in regards to where we're going to be next week working with custom paint brushes inside of Photoshop. Brushes that you guys make off of some unique twists and characterizations using fonts and some different settings. So I'm going to walk you guys through the steps here, some things that we've already actually done in previous classes, but it might serve as a good reminder to see these things again. I've run into a couple technical glitches, technical issues, so I think what I'm going to try to do is make this video as clear as possible, but also as short as possible. So I'm not going to show you every single step here for all of the different fonts. I will show you guys where to go get the fonts. I will kind of leave notes on the screen. Feel free to pause this video at any point in time. Matter of fact, I'll kind of give you guys prompts as this video goes on to make sure that you guys have this or are able to pause it and know what the next step is. Now, one thing that I want to make sure before you guys even start doing this is make sure that Photoshop, and I'll zoom in here on my window, make sure Photoshop is actually quit. Do not have Photoshop up and running during any of these following steps, because if you do, I'll click don't save. If you do, your fonts won't be available for you guys to use. So I want to make sure that you guys know kind of what's going on here. Now, let's see, what do we got here? Looks like I've got my font window open, or I'm sorry, my web window open. Whether you guys are using Chrome or you're using Safari, it doesn't really matter. But what you're going to do is go to a website called Dafont.com. Matter of fact, I can zoom in here on my web address right there, www.dafont.com. It's not the only website to get fonts from, but I believe that it is one of the better font websites in regards to showing you a preview of the font and also showing you a preview of what your custom text might look like. On the screen over on the left or right hand side, I'm going to give you guys a list of the 3 fonts that I'd like you guys to download. Go ahead and pause the video right now, and using the search button or search bar over there on the right hand side, type those fonts in and download those to your computer. Okay, go ahead. All right, so welcome back. So you took some time now to download those 3 fonts. Not only do you have them on your computer, but you've also got them installed on your computer so that you can actually use them. Now, as a really quick reminder, I'm going to be saying this throughout the week and throughout the whole project that you guys are going to be focusing working on the fonts. When you download a font or you download custom brushes and then install them on the computer, those fonts and those brushes are only stored on the actual device that you're working on. So if there's anybody in class right now who's working on a different computer that they've been assigned to, you're going to run into some issues when you go and get a new computer, or you have to go and grab another one. This is why I made such a big issue of you having a USB port to plug into your guys' laptops, so that way if you do have to be on a different computer or a different device, you at least have the fonts available to you. Now, I've got Photoshop open. I want to get into showing you guys how you're going to create custom brushes based off of these fonts, and I'm going to walk you guys through the steps here, setting up a document to do this. Go ahead and go up to the top of your screen and create a new document. And this new document we're going to keep very, very simple, because it's just going to be a working document that we do some stuff on. So go ahead and take a look here. I've got my presets set to US paper. The size is letter. You can see I have 8.5 inches by 11 inches, and my resolution is 300. So go ahead and get that selected. You don't necessarily have to type anything in, because if you just click the US paper presets, all of that will get filled in for you. You can go ahead and click the blue button OK, and as you can see, we've got a piece of paper here ready to go. Now, making custom brushes with text is actually very, very simple. I'm going to walk you guys through the steps really quickly and then show you guys some of the settings that you guys can play around with. But to do this, you have to start off with a blank document, a blank white document, and then moving over to your toolbar where the text or the type tool is, you can go ahead and drag in and drop a text box that you can go and start typing in. Now, what I want you guys to do for the lesson next week is just to simply type out the word in capital letters, Batman. Now, you're going to do this with the 3 different fonts that you've downloaded. You're going to just kind of follow these steps 3 times, but I'm going to start off using the very first font that you guys were downloading, a font called Historia. And you'll notice that when I typed out the word Batman, it automatically defaulted to using the last font that I had open, which must have been Arial. So to change that font, just like in any word processor, I'm going to highlight the term or highlight the characters, and I'm going to go down to my H's, Historia. Actually, I don't think this is going to be in the H's. I think it's going to be in the T's because it has the word the in front of it. But I'm going to try to find it. And my mouse is bouncing all over the place. There it is, the Historia demo. Now my mouse is tweaking out. But I'm going to highlight that, click on the Historia demo font, and there my font has changed in capital letters to the design of the actual font. Now, obviously, since this is an editable font, I can come in here and play around with the way that I want this text to look. But for now, since you guys are just kind of following my instructions, make sure that you have all capital letters set. And when you're using the text tool, it'll obviously start on its own brand new layer. And then to get off of this, to make sure that the text is in there and it's not going to go anywhere, just go up to the top left-hand corner and select the Move tool. Just click on that so that now all you need to do is be able to move that new word around. Now, actually, the next couple of steps in creating a brush for this word are actually very, very simple. You can use any type of selection tool that you want, but what's important is that you've clicked off the text tool, actually being a text tool, and then you can switch over to one of these selection tools. Now, we have a variety of different selection tools that are available to you. I think probably the easiest one to use and the one that makes the most sense is just the rectangular marquee tool, because it allows me to create a box or wraparound box around whatever it is I want to select. And using the rectangular marquee tool, I'm just going to click and drag a rectangle around that word. Now, you'll see on my screen I've got the marching ants that are going around. I've got the word selected with a little bit of white space and the black word on the inside, and that means that area has been selected. We're halfway there to the steps of making this word an actual paintbrush in Photoshop. Once we've got that selected, I'm going to go up to the Edit option at the top of my window, and I am going to mouse down about halfway to the option that says Define Brush Presets. Okay? Edit, Define Brush Presets. And I'm going to click this, and it's going to bring up a little box that looks kind of like this, right? And it's going to ask, well, what would you like to call this brush? And it automatically puts in some text in there. I'm just going to call it Batman Brush, and I'm going to put the actual font name in here so I know what it is, Historia. And you'll notice there's a preview of our text right there, and it's got a brush size directly below it. I'm going to say, okay, that sounds good, and I'm going to zoom out. Now, I could switch over to my paintbrush right now and show you how this works. Unfortunately, one of the problems that I'm going to run into is because I've already got the rectangle marquee on there, I'm only going to be able to paint in this area. So I am going to do a quick deselection of this area by pressing Command D, or I could have went to the top and clicked Select, Deselect. And I'm going to turn off the layer that I typed on and just add a brand new layer on top of it, a brand new clear layer. And over on my left-hand side, I'm going to click on the paintbrush, the brush tool, and you'll notice the brush that pops up is just a circular brush. We don't want this brush, we want the actual brush that looks like the word Batman. So what do? Got to go up to the brush menu. Oh, sorry, there we go. Go up to the brush menu and click down on it and locate at the end of our list, which will be the very last one, the Batman brush. There it is. And there I can paint. All right, so we were having some announcements that were coming through. But what I wanted to be able to show you guys now is with the paintbrush and the word selected, I can actually click and paint with this word like I could normally. Click and drag this around and eventually fill up my whole screen with whatever color I wanted. Let's switch it over to something else. And now this works, this word works like a brush would work, right? I can spin it all around and kind of, you know, sit there and make designs with it. Now, you'll notice over here on my layers menu, all right, I still have 3 layers. I've got a layer that I'm applying the brush to up here. There's that transparent background, and I'm kind of painting around with it. But I also have a text layer down here that right now I have set to invisible because I want to preserve that text layer in case I want to make another brush. Matter of fact, you guys are going to be making 3 of these brushes. You're just going to be changing the font. So instead of typing the word out 3 times on 3 different layers with 3 different fonts, I can just reuse that layer, double click on it. Matter of fact, I can show you guys real quick. I'm going to turn off the visibility of that paintbrush layer, and go back and turn on the visibility of this text layer. There's my text right there. I can double click the little letter T. It's highlighted my word, and then I can go find my next font. I think one of them is called Caviar Dreams. It starts with a C. So I can either type the word caviar in and it should pop up, or I can try to find it. This is a little bit longer. But there we are, Caviar Dreams, there it is. Changes my font, and then I can make a brush right off this layer by using the Marquee tool, the rectangular marquee, to select it, click Edit, define brush presets, and there it is. Just the same steps that I did before. I'll name this one Batman Brush, just like I did before, except this time I'm going to call it Caviar Dreams. It's just kind of indicating to me what the name of the brush actually is. And now I can turn off everything and deselect, go back and turn that other layer on where I was painting around with stuff. And I can show you guys what these brushes actually look like now. And through the magic of video, I mean, I can obviously do this a little bit faster than you guys. But now that I've got everything ready to go, I can come in here and start painting text with those brushes. All right. Now, go ahead, feel free to pause the video, make sure that you followed the steps. If you got to rewind a little bit, that's fine. My next step to you is going to be showing you guys how to tweak some of the certain aspects and settings to these brushes so that instead of just getting one weird kind of word over and over again, you actually get some variance to it, and you can play around with some of the settings that way, okay? All right, so you guys pause the video, you've got everything ready to go to start playing around with some of the settings of the brush. Now, it really doesn't matter which brush you choose to use on this. I know you made 3 already, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run you through some of the numbers that you're going to type in on the brush settings to actually get a little bit of more variance on what the brush looks like. Actually, to do this, I'm going to take this layer that I've been painting on and try to actually turn it off invisible, and I'm going to add a brand new layer on top of it so that you can actually see some of these changes that I made. Now, yellow is maybe a little bit too much of a color, but too hard to see against the bright white. But against here in using the color blue, you can see that when I click and drag my text brush, it kind of just makes like a line. There's not really anything happening to the brush itself, and it kind of looks a little boring that way. Matter of fact, it doesn't really look like much. We can kind of set some things up option-wise with the brush, and to do that, I'm going to introduce you guys all the way up at the top to this little folder icon right next to where you guys would be choosing a different brush. It's actually the brush panels and the options. It looks like a little folder with a cup of paintbrushes in it. Go ahead and click that button, and when you do, you are going to get a window that opens up. Let's see if I can zoom. There we are. Zoom in on it. And again, this kind of looks like the special effects for putting effects on different windows, or I'm sorry, different layers inside of Photoshop. And this can get a little scary or frightening to people who are just amateurs trying out Photoshop. But everything that you have here basically is your paintbrushes, and then different options that you can set your paintbrushes to. Now, in a previous class, I might have told you to play around or fool around with some of the settings, and that's okay because we can always go back and reset them. It's no big deal. But today I want you guys to follow my settings here with the brushes that we've created, and make sure that you guys have the opportunity now to actually set things up that work the right way. So first things first, with the Batman brush that I've got, I am going to go down to the bottom right here where it says spacing. I'm actually going to turn the spacing up to 350%. And if you do that, oh, my number changed there for a second. There we go. If you do that, you'll notice in the little preview window that the spacing of the word Batman actually separates a little bit more. So instead of it being one continuous line of text, now it's kind of spaced out between, and you can actually read the word a little bit better. Of course, the more percentage numbers, values that you put in there, the wider apart those instances are going to occur. But for now, I think 350 is a pretty good number to start at. Now, we have a couple other options up here that I'm going to walk you guys through. And just like in the special effects or the blending options for layers, you have check boxes here that you can go ahead and check into. But then you have the word itself that you can click on the menu and actually change some things. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a checkbox in Shape Dynamics. And then I'm going to click on the word to open up the menu of different things that I've got here. Now it looks like I've got all the information actually in there, so I'm just going to pause the video right here, or pause my screen for a second and let you copy down some of this information that's there. For example, the size jitter, you're going to have 50%. Okay. And then it looks like one or two options down where it says angle jitter, you're going to leave that at 25%. Now, if you've got those numbers already punched in, you can switch now over to the scattering option and then click on the word scattering. And this will just spread the words apart a little bit. Now, the scattering, it looks like for some reason mine is set to 292%. I'm just going to go ahead and type in the number 300, and I'm going to put that down there. And as you can see, the preview of our paintbrush now is kind of looking a little bit more usable. Not only do we have different sizes being represented there, but they're also being scattered all over the place, and the angles are all over. And then the very last option that I'm going to have you guys click on is color dynamics, and then go ahead and click on the word. All right. You can see here that I've set the hue jitter to 15%. And then the saturation jitter is at 25. The brightness jitter is at 15. Now you won't really be able to see what this actually looks like in the preview, because previews of paintbrushes are usually in black or white. They show you in black where, you know, a color is going to be painted, and they show you in white like negative space or what's not going to be painted. But if I zoom out here real quick and close this little panel, now you'll notice that when I use my paintbrush, or even before I use my paintbrush, it's already starting to turn. And since I've got the paintbrush set to a different color than black, it's actually set to blue now. As I click and drag this around, my paintbrush actually changes in size. Now you might not necessarily be able to catch this, but if I zoom in, you'll notice I've got a sort of purple color type, and then I've got a little bit of a bluer color type. That's the color dynamics coming into play. There's a little bit of a variance between blue and purple, so if I start painting with this a little bit, I'll have the opportunity of my paintbrush kind of laying down different colors. Now you're going to set those options with all three of your paintbrushes. So using you know, the brush panels option up here, you're going to switch back and forth between the three brushes that you already made. And you can actually see the difference in the preview window down there between what I've already done and what still needs to be done right there. I'll give you guys a couple seconds there to do that, and then you guys can take the next step. All right, so you guys set all the options up on your paintbrushes, and I almost forgot to tell you, one of the things that usually pops up and people ask about are these little locks, these little padlocks that they see on the side. Some of them are open, some of them are closed. And I want to make sure that I explain to you guys what the purpose of this is. When you lock these, or when you click on them and lock them, the settings won't be changed as you use the paintbrush. Sometimes what you notice is as you're switching between brushes, some of the sizes that you selected or some of the settings that you messed around with sometimes go back and forth of being working and not working. If you click this little lock button, all those settings are kind of saved, if you will, and all your information won't change as you use them. Now, obviously, you've got, a couple different layers here that you can play around with, and you can move around and you can paint with it. But just to show you guys sort of a side-by-side comparison of what happened, here I've got all my different colors kind of layered up with the different brushes that I've got. And if I switch that off and switch back on my old layer, you can see the difference between the two different paintbrush styles that I've got going on there. Now, obviously, this is kind of, it's important for next week's class, but it might not make a lot of sense to you right now as to what's going on. So what I'm going to have you guys do once you've done all that information and you've set up your new brushes with those different settings, is I'm going to have you guys go ahead and click on the paintbrush menu here, and this little icon or gear will have a drop down menu in the top corner, and you are going to click the option that says Save Brushes. Save Brushes. And what this will do is it'll bring up a little menu, just kind of like when you're saving a brand new document. It'll bring up a little menu for you to type in the brushes, and I'm just going to call these Batman brushes. And I'm going to save this on my desktop. Now you'll notice there is no place here to save this as a certain type of file extension or anything like that, because brushes can only be saved in one style, one file extension in Photoshop. So all you need to worry about is naming the brushes, and you can go ahead and click Save. Now as it does that, I am going to minimize my Photoshop window and show you what ends up happening when you save these brushes. You'll notice you get a little icon that looks like a paintbrush, and it actually has the word brushes at the bottom. And there's my file name with the extension ABR, which stands for Adobe Photoshop Paintbrushes or brushes. You can only use this file on an Adobe Photoshop program. You can't send these brushes out to anybody else who doesn't have Photoshop. They can't be used on any other program like Microsoft Word or anything like that. But those brushes that you guys were installing in previous classes is exactly made the same way that you made these brushes. They just create everything, save them, and then put them on the internet for you to download. Now, I think this is probably going to wrap up the 45-50 minutes of class that you guys have, and I don't want to give you guys too much more information here to oversaturate or confuse you guys. So go ahead and make sure that you followed all the steps, and you've got 3 paintbrushes in the 3 downloaded font styles that I've given you guys, and all the settings are correct, and save that brush file, get that backed up on your USB stick, and or your Edmodo backpack, and I will see you again Monday when I return, and we are going to be using these paintbrushes on another portion of this demo that I want to make sure that you guys get. All right, so good luck today, and I will see you after the weekend is over.